Rose, I'm going to send you a number to try. Just 1 second. Give me a second. I'm going to text you a number. I'm going to send it to the group. Give me a second for another meeting number. Okay. Let me try something. Okay. Bye. Okay, great. Okay.
Hey.
Hey, okay. Just give me a second. I'm just going to send this through to Rose.
Hello.
Hello, yay. Just 1 second. I'm just sending this through to Rose. Give me a second. Just 1 second. Thank you. I hope everybody else manages. Okay. Just 1 second. Hello, Aggie. I'm looking at you from the corner of my eye.
That's all right. You don't have to look at me.
Just 1 second.
You did it? Are you still in Israel?
Yeah, till the end of June, Ilana.
Oh, how beautiful. Long time.
Yeah.
Hi,
Look
Rose.
forward to catching up.
I've just sent you another number to
Me
link.
too, Aggie.
It's a computer link. Just to enter. It's on your phone, okay?
You had
so I can give it to you now if you want to write it down. Sorry, everybody. I'm just talking to Rose. Everybody, okay. 251 570 499.
Will this be for every week, Michal?
Okay, yeah, that should let you in without a contact, okay? Without needing to put the password.
Same password.
Yeah. Okay. So just keep. Yeah. No, I understand that. Someone's using our login. I don't know who. Yes, I know. I don't know. I rang Rav Johnny. Okay. If everybody can hear me online, I did ring Rav Johnny because he saw brochure on, and he said somebody was using his link as well, but he managed to get them off. So I'm not sure what exactly is going on or why, but we'll just need to look into it at the moment. Okay, everybody's just about on, which is great. Okay. Okay, don't worry. Do you want to talk? Are you okay if I put you on, just put you on the mic? Okay. Okay, great. Okay. Speaker is Rose. Okay, Rose, can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Okay,
Yep.
Great, excellent. Hello, everybody. Well, nothing like some good drama. I know somebody is using our link, so we'll have to just sort that out, who is actually online and why this is happening. But I rang Rav Johnny and he said to me someone was on his link, but he managed to chuck them off. So anyway, we've got an alternative, so that's great.
Is that just for this week or for next week?
Hopefully just for this week.
Yeah.
But at least I've kept a record of the number. It's another Mizrahi online. So if it happens again, at least I know that we've got a spare. I was mucking around with all the numbers to see which one I could get into. So that's a little, I apologize. We just have to sort out why this is happening. So thank you everybody for your patience.
Thank you for sending through the recording from last week.
Yes, okay, that's yes. Rav Mark managed to retrieve that. I don't know how what's happened is that I think we have to just fix this all up. Rav Mark set up all these accounts, so he can retrieve the link of the recording. So I need him to do that. We have our link. I don't know who's using it, so that has to be sort of investigated. Anyway, I managed to find one of the other Mizrahi accounts. That's how we got on tonight. So at least, when it works, at least the technology is working. Okay, so Rose is online. I can see everybody else, which is great. Okay, let's get into it. Sefer Daniel, right? We're going to continue from last week. So there's a lot to talk about and a lot to say. So what I'm just going to do is use a few minutes just for a recap so that we all kind of are in the picture. Everybody will remember from last week. But really, this chapter, which is really chapter 4 with a few psukim from chapter 3, begins with Nebuchadnezzar writing this Igeret, writing about the fact that he had a dream, right? Does anybody remember what his dream was about?
The second dream?
Yes, his second dream.
About this magnificent tree that reached high and was full of birds and shelter and food and all sorts of gorgeous things.
Right. So there's a beautiful tree. He has a dream. It's a beautiful tree. What happens with this tree? And it extends to the whole earth, right? And under this beautiful tree, the birds sit in the actual branches. The animals come underneath. And what happens to the tree?
It gets chopped.
Right. It gets lopped, really chopped right down. And what then, right, the tree gets chopped down completely. What happens? The only thing that's left of the tree is the stump, the trunk, right, with the roots. And what happens to
And it gets a chastity belt.
it gets a belt put around it, right? Okay, and it gets a belt put around it, and who remembers what happens next?
Well, it's a 7 period, whatever that
Right.
is, 7 years or 7 seasons, and then there is the opportunity for it to come to life again if he does the right things.
Okay. Now, remember that in this dream is a little bit different to the first dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. Even though this is his second dream, the first one, if we recall, was about the idol. And in what way is this dream different? Not in terms of the dream itself, but how the narrative, what's the events surrounding the dream, not the actual dream itself, but the narrative. In the first dream, what happened with Nebuchadnezzar?
You couldn't remember it.
Right, he couldn't remember the dream, let alone the solution, right? He couldn't remember the dream. So when Daniel comes to him, he's got to tell him what the dream is, as well as tell him what is the meaning of the dream, right? In this dream, of course, Nebuchadnezzar actually remembers the dream, right? But when he comes to he remembers the dream, he tells the dream to all of his wise men, the witchcraft, the exorcists, all those people, and yet none of them can give an interpretation for the dream. And if you recall, we said it's pretty obvious what this dream is about. And why won't all the advisors tell him? What we discussed that last week. Why won't they tell him?
They're scared of his reaction.
Right. They're scared because everybody kind of has a sense of what the dream is about. And therefore, no one really wants to tell Nebuchadnezzar that he's a typical dictator. No one wants to tell him. They're afraid to tell him the bad news. And then he calls Daniel. And remember, Daniel initially is stumped also. How long is he stumped for? He remained silent for
A day.
an hour. Okay, it seems he remained silent for an hour, and then he begins to tell Nebuchadnezzar the interpretation of the dream, and that's more or less where we got to last week. And we've got quite a bit of work. We've got quite a little bit of work to actually go through. So if you have your Daf Mikorot from last week, we're just going to finish off there, and then we're going to move on to the Daf Mikorot from this week as well. So what I would like you to do in your Daf Mikorot, please, from last week, is I'd like you to go to page 4. Oh, sorry, page 3. I want to just finish off. This is where we got to. I've marked it all. Okay.
What does it start? My page is different. What does it start with?
Okay. So it says the Spirit of God. Can you see that? In the Tanakh. Often refers in the Tanakh.
Yes, God's Spirit in the Tanakh.
Right? Is everybody sees that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So as Daniel asher shmo b'tzadar, hishtomem kesha'a achat. It seems 1 hour. We can assume he is silent for a certain. ורעיונותיו יבלו, ויען המלך ויאמר בצ'צר חלום ופתרונו אל יבלך. ויען בצ'צר ויאמר אדוני החלום לשונאיך ופתרונו לצריך. So now how does Daniel is kind of afraid for a while, but then he actually goes and Nebuchadnezzar reassures him, and it's now time for him to actually tell the dream. Okay, and then, okay, have a look at Pasuk Kaf Dalet. Now, when Daniel actually speaks, right, when he actually speaks after being silent for a while, he tells Nebuchadnezzar about the dream, right, what he says, and then towards the end, right once he's interpreted, right in Kaf Dalet, he says, and then he comes and he says, Lachen hamelech, after he interprets what the dream means, he says, Lachen hamelech, etzati titav alecha, v'chataecha b'tzedaka pada, v'avonecha b'chon aniyim, ulai tiye aruka l'shalvatcha. What is actually, you did that, can you read 24, Pasuk?
Therefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable to you, and redeem your sins with charity and your transgressions through compassion to the poor, that your tranquility may be extended.
Say that in English.
Okay, so in English, what happens is the following. Daniel tells the king the interpretation that obviously who is the tree representing?
The king himself.
Right, that Nebuchadnezzar is actually going to come undone. He's going to be destroyed, and his kingdom potentially will be destroyed. That is what Daniel tells him. He explains to him the dream that everybody knows. But then something very strange happens. Daniel does the following. He says to Nebuchadnezzar something that perhaps he wasn't originally asked, something that Yosef does also when he interprets the dream. Lachen hamelech etzati. What's an etzah? It's advice. He actually gives the king advice. And he says to the king, potentially, if you want to avoid this calamity of losing your kingdom, what do you have to do?
Charity.
Right, you have to give charity. And if you give, right, tzedakah, right, to the poor, if you give charity to the poor, maybe you can extend your kingdom. In other words, you can have a longer period in which you will be, in other words, you have a longer period to be king, and you can, as though, you have the potential of annulling the decree or making the dream not come true. Okay. Now, what is interesting here about Daniel giving this advice? By the way,
what right did he have to give that advice?
Wasn't asked for.
He was not asked, and what right did he have to give that advice? Okay. he was asked to interpret the dream. Now, Yosef was also asked to interpret Paro's dream, right? And Yosef also gives advice. So what is the difference between this, and Yosef, it seems that it's the right thing to do. What is the difference between Yosef giving advice and Daniel here giving advice? Can we pick up something here?
Just a minute. Yosef.
When Yosef gives advice to Paro, what is his advice from the text?
To store the grain.
Store the grain.
To store the grain. What's the purpose of storing the grain?
So in the lean years, they'll have food
Right.
in the lean years.
So the idea here is that when Yosef gives advice, it's to help Mitzrayim, right? To help Egypt get through the famine. Okay, that's the purpose. And eventually, of course, also bearing in mind that people from other nations come to try and get grain in Egypt. But here, right, what's the difference between Paro and Nebuchadnezzar? They're both foreign rulers. They're both the rulers of big countries. Is there a difference between Paro and at the time and Nebuchadnezzar now?
Big difference. Nebuchadnezzar has conquered Yerushalayim.
Right. Okay. Nebuchadnezzar is basically
The enemy.
He's the enemy. Okay. And of course, Paro at the time is not. He's the good Paro, right? And therefore, there's a big difference. But here, Daniel he's asked to interpret the dream. He not only interprets it, but he also asks for, he also then gives Nebuchadnezzar advice. Is everybody with me on that? Okay. Now, if you have a look, right, what happens is, and another
Can you
thing
just remind us, after the first dream, did he ask Daniel for advice or did he just ask for interpretation?
No, the first dream he needed to hear, to actually be told what the dream was and what the
Right,
dream,
just interpretation, pure
just the
interpretation.
interpretation. But here Daniel goes a step further and he interprets the dream and he gives advice. Okay.
Michal, do you think the language has any specific relevance that Eitzar is like Etz is tree, Eitzar is advice?
Okay, not really, because the text is in Aramaic. Remember, we're using a Hebrew text, but Itzah is the modern Hebrew, the modern Hebrew part of it. Okay, so what's very interesting here that Daniel takes a step forward. Remember also, Daniel is not a Navi, neither is Yosef, but therefore he's operating with Ruach Kodesh. He has some divine inspiration. Chazal have a big problem with Daniel giving advice. Okay, so have a look underneath, right? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, Beitamar Rav Yoshua ben Levi, Mipnei ma ne'enash Daniel, Mipnei shehei etzah Nebuchadnezzar. According to, right, in Baba Batra, according to Chazal, what happens?
He's punished.
Daniel is punished for giving Nebuchadnezzar advice. Okay, now the question, of course, is what punishment do we know? I didn't source it here, but do we know what punishment Daniel got? Okay,
It says down the bottom, right into the lion's den.
Sorry?
Down the bottom, it says Daniel's punishment according to the Gemara was that he's thrown into the lion's den.
Okay, I put it down at the end, right? I didn't put it straight away. Okay, I wanted you to see. So actually, it's very interesting because it's something new that I had learned. Most of us know there's a midrash that says in Megillat Esther that Esther has a very loyal servant who conveys all the messages between her and Mordechai, right? So there's messages going backwards and forwards when Mordechai wants her to go to the king and she won't go. That servant's name is Chatoch, right? And the Midrash says, who is he?
Daniel.
Okay, Daniel seems, according to the Midrash, what's his punishment? Okay, one punishment, of course, is the obvious one, which we're going to come to, and that is that he gets thrown into the lion's den. The second punishment is that he gets renegated later on to be the servant of Esther.
Is that a punishment?
Well, that's the
question. He's a eunuch.
Is
He's a eunuch.
Right. So then he's a eunuch. Okay. So certainly that kind of fits.
Michal,
Yeah.
he can't possibly be a Jew. I mean, the Midrash is telling us something, but they're not actually saying it's Daniel. It can't be Daniel.
Okay.
He converted to be a goy.
So
let's face it.
Yeah, no, but what
in other words, something. Hasba Khalila. I'm not saying the Midrash. Please don't get me wrong, but that doesn't seem that we can be so simple and say that is Daniel. It doesn't make sense to me.
That's what the Midrash says, that Chatach is Daniel. In other words, what it's trying to say is that there's something that Daniel, Chazal here, it's Chazal's way of kind of perhaps criticizing Daniel for having done something that he was not asked for, and certainly with Nebuchadnezzar. So now, that's what, remember when we're dealing with Midrash, we're dealing with two possibilities, right? One is Chatach. We do see that. I've always known that Chatach is Daniel and never knew why. And originally I thought that Chatach was Daniel. That's a way of explaining why Esther could trust him to convey all the messages with Mordechai, because Esther never was, what does the Megillah tell us? Ein Esther. She doesn't tell anybody, yet she's having this whole conversation with Mordechai backwards and forwards with a trusted advisor. So it's an interesting, it's an interesting idea that occurs, but certainly Rabbi Yehuda, quoting Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, okay, actually says that Daniel should not have given Nebuchadnezzar any advice, okay? And therefore, and I've sourced, now you can see I've sourced it right below and given that to you. Okay, so we have a dream, and then we have a dream, Daniel interprets the dream, Daniel gives Nebuchadnezzar advice and tells Nebuchadnezzar, as long as you are giving tzedakah, you're looking after the poor, then everything's going to be okay. Now, just out of curiosity, maybe people know who could potentially be the poor people in Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. Where are the poor? Who are they?
The Jews.
Yeah,
They could be Israelite slaves.
Right.
That he's captured.
Right. Anybody who he has, any nation or anybody who he has captured. Exactly. Captured and taken away. Remember, this is also, right, what begins with empires, what the big change of empires. Up until Ashur, we don't have empires. What we have is big regional powers. Now we have in the Tanakh, in the Tanakh, we have the Plishtim are an enemy for a while, right? The Plishtim come in, they conquer parts of Eretz, they take over parts of Eretz Israel. So we have the Plishtim as an enemy, and the Plishtim, right? The Plishtim come. Remember, I told you this. The Plishtim are right.
No, man.
So Plishtim are local, so there's fights within. Okay. So where did the Plishtim come from?
See, yeah.
Right. Okay. So that we have. So we have local enemies, okay, and we have the Amalek, small little nations. Egypt is a superpower, okay, but until the Assyrians come in, we don't have this idea of kind of empires, but that begins with Assyria and continues onwards as Babel then takes over from Assyria. And what they did was, of course, in order to avoid rebellion, they mixed up populations. That's why you exile, you take Jews, you put them in, you put them in Babel, you take other nations, put them in Eretz Israel, you mix up populations. And therefore, Daniel says, no, if you look after the needy, then you will be okay. Now, it seems that Nebuchadnezzar takes Daniel's advice, and he does that. Okay, so he does that. Let's have a look what happens next. So we see that Daniel gives advice. Hakol higia el Nebuchadnezzar hamelech. Leketz yerachim 12, okay, al echal hamalchut shel Bavel halach haya. Now, Nebuchadnezzar how long does he take that advice? It seems here for 12 months. There's a dispute for how long. We'll come back to that later, but certainly Nebuchadnezzar takes on the advice, and it seems that he's giving charity. Okay, but then what happens is that he's walking, one day he's walking where? He's walking in his palace, by the way, on the roof of his palace, and he's looking around on his palace, okay? Vayan hamelech vayomer, halo zohi Bavel הגדולה, אשר אני בניתי לבית מלכות, בתוקף חסני לכבוד הדרי. Okay, so you did up 26 and 27. Can you read? At the end of 12
months, he was walking in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spoke and he said, "Is this not the great Babylon which I have built as a royal residence, by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty?"
Okay, continue.
As the king was still speaking, a voice came down from heaven saying, "To you it is spoken, King Nebuchadnezzar, the kingdom has departed from you. You will be driven away from man, and your dwelling will be with the beasts of the field. You will be made to eat grass like the oxen, and 7 seasons will pass over you until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whoever he deserves." Desires. There and then the sentence was carried out upon Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven away from men. He ate grass like cattle, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven until his hair grew like eagles and his nails like talons of birds. It's gross.
It's gross. Okay, now what's very interesting is, okay, let's try and unpack and understand what's happening here. It's lo pashut. It's not easy. Nebuchadnezzar seems to take on Daniel's advice, but after, we'll talk about, let's just put it out after 12 months. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. What happens? What happens? He's walking in his palace, right? And he can look over. Perhaps we can assume that he's obviously somewhere where he's on a roof overlooking, because he can see the area of his palace and his capital. And what happens? What happens to Nebuchadnezzar?
A voice from heaven comes.
Well, yeah, but before
how
that,
does he merit a voice from heaven?
right? Okay, but wait. What does he say to himself?
That he's still great.
He praises himself.
Right. He praises it. He says, I'm amazing. I built all of this. What gets in Nebuchadnezzar, of course, is the pride of what he has achieved. Okay. Now, if you have a look, can you see where I've got Midrash Tanchuma underneath the text? Underneath that section. Can everybody see that? At the end of page 4. Miyad Patach?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Can everybody see that? Yeah. Okay. So what happens is the Midrash fills us in with some details. What happens is that we're coming back, Nebuchadnezzar sees his grand palace, I built it on. The Midrash comes and says, Miyad Patach oto rasha otzrotav v'chilek lahem 12 shanim. At the moment that Sorry, Chodesh. Okay, I know what I'm saying. What happens is that when Daniel gives, according to the Midrash, when Daniel gives his advice to Nebuchadnezzar, or Torasha, right? Give me the name of Torasha, that evil one is Nebuchadnezzar. He opened up his treasures and he gave it for 12 months. He distributed his funds. Le'achar 12 chodesh, Shachach oto rasha et hachalom. After 12 months, he forgot about the dream. You know, I've given charity, everything's fine. Who cares about the dream? Everything is fine. Ve'itchil letayel, okay, al partelim shelo. He started walking around in his palace. Okay, shama kol hamon צעקת העניים לפני אוצרותיו, אמר לעבדו, מה כל זה שאני שומע? So he's walking around this palace, and according to the Midrash, what happens? He hears, who does he hear?
The poor people.
Right. He hears the cries of the poor people. Where are they?
In front of his treasures.
Why? What are they there for?
Waiting.
They're waiting. They're waiting for their distribution, their financial distribution, right? So suddenly he's working, and what happens? He hears them. Amar le'avdav, he says to his servants, Ma kol zeh shani shomea, what am I hearing? Right? What is this voice? Amru lo, ha'aniim shegalita tuv'im parnasam. Said, what you hear? All the poor people that you have exiled, moved around, right? Jews from Babylon, other parts of the empire, right? What are they doing? Tov'im parnasam. They are asking for their parnasah, for their money, right? They're exiles, they're refugees, and therefore they're asking. Okay, they want their money that you are distributing. Miyad nichnas bo ayin ra. In that moment, what happened? He was seized by
ayin hara.
Ayin hara. By the way, if you have a look, what word is, when it comes to Nebuchadnezzar, what word do we have always repeating? Ra and Rasha. Okay, he's in it, right? Ana malcha v'amar. Halo dehi Babel rabata di. This is quoting from the text. Ana beita lebeit malchei betokef chasrei lekar hadirei. Okay, Amar ilulei beit hamamon sheli me'echan ani boneh hamedina hazo kula. Yedida, can you read the rest of that out? So we have the exact translation.
The wicked one, Nebuchadnezzar, immediately opened his treasure houses and distributed to them for 12 months. After 12 months, the wicked one forgot his dream and began walking about his palace. He heard the sound of the destitute masses in front of his treasure houses and said to his servants, "What is this sound that I hear?" They told him, "The poor whom you drove out are demanding sustenance." He was seized with meanness. The king spoke and he said, "Is this not the great Babylon, which I have built as a royal residence, by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty?" He said, "Were it not for my treasure house, how could I build this entire kingdom?" He instructed and ruled for them, as it is written. As the king was still speaking, the Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, "Wicked one, who granted you tranquility all of these 12 months, was it not the charity that you executed?"
Okay, what here is the Midrash trying to tell us?
That whatever punishment he was going to get was suspended for 12 months while he was giving charity.
Right. Okay, that the punishment was suspended. In other words, because of he was giving charity. He was only giving charity because
Daniel told him to
do that. Okay, but what stops him? What actually stops him from giving? Why does he stop giving the charity?
He's had enough of it. He doesn't want to do it anymore. He's
Right.
feeling very mean.
He's feeling very mean. He's Nebuchadnezzar. Wait, we've got lots of mean things to say.
Isn't it more than that? Isn't it more
Okay, yeah.
He became so, he's looked on himself as being so grand and so amazing and so wonderful that he says, "What do I need this for? I don't need to give them anything."
In other
I
words,
think
what
that's
gets
quite normal.
Okay, well, he might, right. He looks at himself. He's walking around his palace. He's seeing He's seeing what he's built, right? He thinks to himself, "I am amazing, right? I am wonderful. I'm Nebuchadnezzar. I built Babel. I've done it all." And then kind of what are these horrible people doing there? They're taking money from my treasury. Wait a minute. I can use my money better, right? To continue building it, right? And therefore he stopped. Okay. Now and therefore what happens the moment he stops, that allows for the punishment to happen. By the way, not the same, but a similarity. Somebody else walks on a roof and looks over.
David.
Right.
These Bathsheba. That's very different.
It is very different, but it's very
But
different.
at that point, David Miller has become, that I say this, but he thinks he's terrific. He can do what he's like. He didn't go out to war.
Right.
Right. In other words,
he's in a bad place.
Right. In other words, we're not comparing. I want to be we're not comparing. I do not want to compare. I'm not comparing David HaMelech to Nebuchadnezzar. What I'm comparing is
their experiences.
The experience, right?
Oh, your
that
experience,
in a sense,
nature.
Yeah, it's part of the ga'ava, the pride, the hubris that gets in is what causes the sin, especially when you are dealing with rulers. And therefore, what happens here, the Medrash here is picking up and says, what changed for Nebuchadnezzar? What changed was that the meanness, the vanity, right, got into him, and therefore he stopped. He forgot the dream. He forgot Daniel's advice, and therefore he stopped. In other words, Daniel's advice that he gave him and Nebuchadnezzar giving the tzedakah has helped him kind of help keep the dream as though away, or the results of the dream. And the moment he stops, right, therefore we'll see what actually happens to him. Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay.
Still not quite sure of the timeline. So this is
okay.
So when the Sefer started, Nebuchadnezzar was ruling Jerusalem, but he hadn't conquered it yet.
Okay.
Right.
No. Well. Okay. It's a little bit hard. Now it's going to be a little bit hard to follow an exact timeline. I'm going to tell you already now that when we finish this section, we are finishing with Nebuchadnezzar. And this is the last bit. We're going to go then towards the end of the reign of Bavel to the later kings. So this is the end of Nebuchadnezzar here. Okay. I didn't want to tell you till we finish. Okay. So it's not, what we're doing is we're not, and by the way, I'm going to change the chapters around just because it makes better sense. I'm going to do a little change of chapters because the chronology is not exact. So I'm going to rearrange them in their chronological order. Okay, I can do that. It's Ktuvim. All right. So it's not. So what happens here is that this is not really giving us a chronology, but rather talking about what's happened it's a book about Galut and life in the Galut. But certainly at the beginning, Nebuchadnezzar has conquered Jerusalem, and what he has done, right? So he's conquered Jerusalem, right? And what has he done? Where does the story begin?
He's taken these boys, he's taken captives.
Right.
So I don't understand. Is the temple destroyed, yes or no?
The temple is destroyed.
So at what point was it destroyed in this narrative?
Okay, I don't know. It doesn't tell us. So I can only guess that it may well have been before this happened.
Right.
So would it be, Debbie, I'm listening to you, would it be that we saw Daniel as a boy and now he's grown up and therefore many years have passed?
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a young man.
He's a young man, but he's no longer a boy.
Yeah. Okay.
So he was taken captive as a boy.
Yeah, as a young. We know that they are young. They are youths.
Right.
And they're being trained. Remember, the whole idea is that they're going to be they're being trained in the royal ways of Bavel, and that was the whole opening part.
Okay, so after the Churban was Galut Bavel, so everybody moved to Bavel. So Nebuchadnezzar was ruling them at that time.
Yes.
Now Daniel was in the palace,
yeah.
and all the Jews were exiled to Bavel.
Right, and to other And
at this point, Have they established themselves in Babel? I mean,
Well,
you are
certainly,
in
certainly, yeah, we don't know. The text doesn't tell us, but we know certainly here that obviously we have what happens. We see from this text, or at least from the Midrash, that there is a refugee problem, that people are being moved around, dislocated from their homes, right, being forced to go to other places. And certainly there is a period where people are poor. So what we're going to cover is, at this point, we're just covering the period of, we're covering the period of Nebuchadnezzar. And then next week, or maybe the week after, depending, because where I still got a few more things we want to do, but certainly we're going to then move. I'll give you once again the timeline of where we're going. Now, I can only do that basically according to who the kings are and who we know, okay? So this is the end of the description of Nebuchadnezzar. So the book of Daniel is not giving us sort of a timeline, this happened in this year and so on. It's describing life in the Galut. Okay, and this is the first time of what it is, and from inside Nebuchadnezzar's, inside the palace. And we're going to meet some of the follow-up kings as well, and they're not very nice, but
so the whole time that Bnei Israel were in Bavel, there was a Babylonian king.
There's kings, yes. There's three.
Right. So what were under what conditions were they living? Then
okay.
Were they prisoners? Were they slaves? Were they?
Well, certainly certainly we know that obviously when they came, Al Narot Bavel, Sham Yashavnu, Bebachim, right? So they were certainly people who were living there. But once again, when they're in Bavel, they are obviously forced to stay in Bavel, right? At some point, they must have already settled down. Some of them must have become prosperous, but they could not return to Eretz Israel. They were not allowed to. We know that. How do we know that?
Well, we know, so when Ezra and Nehemiah went back,
right? It's during.
That's the Persian. That's during.
Right.
Xerxes,
so,
is that
right. So it's Hatzarat Koresh, according to the text, right? It's
right.
During the Persian period. By the way, we're going to see later on kind of a few other little ties, how things tie. But certainly they are in exile for 70 years during this period. Now, Nebuchadnezzar doesn't reign for the whole 70 years. We're going to meet the next generation of Nachas, Babylonian.
So the yeshivot of Surah and Pumbedita, they were established at this time?
Sometime later on. Now, when
so within that 70-year period.
Yeah, but wait a minute, just 1 second, because when there is Hatzarat Koresh, when Koresh actually allows the Jews, which is in the Persian period, to come back, and then Ezra and Nehemiah and the whole story, what do we know? We know two very important
Most of the people didn't go back.
Most of the people did not go back, because by then they're already established in Galut, okay? So
Sorry for the detour, but I'm just not quite understanding.
Yeah, so they didn't go back. And we also know that there's another problem when they come back.
They don't know Hebrew, they don't know anything.
When they come back also.
They don't know the Torah, they don't remember the Torah.
All of that, but what else? Who is
they have foreign wives.
Right, they have foreign wives as well. They've married out. Galut is not good, right? And there are people living in Eretz Israel, right? Okay, and they're not happy about the Jews coming. So this mixing, right? The reason that they mix the population basically is, if I'm a Jew coming from Judea and I now live in Bavel and I've settled in Bavel, if I rebel and I want to go back home, I'm still in Bavel. I have to kind of make my way home. So the mixing up, moving populations around was a way. Displacing people disempowers them, right? You're away from your homeland. But after a while, you get used to being away from home. So when Hatzarat Koresh, when the Persians come and allow the Jews to come back, most of them don't do that. And when they come back, of course, there are the Karaites are there and other people are there who don't want the Jews to come back. And they are the ones who try very much to stop the Jews from building the Beit Sheni. Okay, they're building the second temple. And that's why the second temple, I mean, the people come back are not the well-off and so on. That's why when they build the second temple is not a shadow of the first temple. We know that.
Until
right?
Herod comes. Until Herod comes.
Until Herod comes. But Herod comes
With the
at the end
Hashmonaim, I just-
of the Roman period, right? So we're traveling now for a large part of history.
So where's
So-
all this stuff written?
Ezra
It's not in
Benjamin.
Ketuvim, is it?
Okay, so we have some of this in Ketuvim,
Is that
some of this is in
Josephus?
the Gemara, some of this is in the Midrash, and of course,
Well,
some of
obviously
this
there's one
is
in there.
historical. I'm going to show you next week. Even there's some references to the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls has some references as well to some of this. Okay, so it's we're
So is Josephus the source of this history? Is that?
no,
No,
Josephus
just later.
later. Okay,
Ah,
so we're piecing all of this. We're piecing this together. Okay, from Ezra, Nehemiah, we've got and so on. We've got our historical. The Gemara, as you can see in the Midrash, are already telling us bits and pieces as well from that. So that's why. By the way, it's a very challenging book to teach, and it's a very challenging book to learn. And that's why I think, like for all of us, I think the fact that we are taking this on, I think it's really, it's really Everest in many ways. It's certainly a big challenge for me to teach it. And my biggest challenge, the thing I'm most disappointed is that my Aramaic is not existent enough to read it in the original. So I'm working off a Hebrew translation. So something at some point to revisit. But it is a challenging book. And that's why you don't have hundreds of shurim on Daniel. Okay, so it is a challenging book. So that's the context, okay? So therefore, what happens now, let's finish. We've got 2 minutes. We won't get to, we will next week, hopefully we'll get on time. I will check why we got bumped off. But just the very end of the book, what happens to Nebuchadnezzar right at the end of this section? Okay,
becomes a monster.
He becomes a monster, exactly. Okay, and we have to, of course, try and understand what does the text mean when Nebuchadnezzar then becomes a monster. I just want to point out one thing, and we'll finish with that. And that means that next week you've got the Daf Mekorot for next week.
Never received it.
Sorry?
I don't know why. I didn't receive it. I don't know why.
Okay, so I will send it to you separately. I don't know why some people are not receiving the Daf Mekorot. I've got everybody like I have us all on a sort of a group thing.
So check your spam.
This doesn't have spam.
Yeah. Do you never get it, Sue? Do you never get
No, I
the Daf?
normally get it.
Okay, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you as a separate thing. Okay, so what I just want to point out one thing. If you go back to the text, if you go back to the text, what happens to Nebuchadnezzar? All right, once it right, that he's going, what will happen to him?
He'll eat the grass.
Right, he's
Okay,
going to become a
He
He becomes
chayam.
like a bird. He becomes like
Right,
a bird.
it becomes like, okay, so have a look right at the end of the, it says, right, I just want to point out, umital hashamayim umigufo yeratev ad asher gadal sa'aro kinesharim. His hair is going to grow like that of an eagle. It's probably going to have this long sort of grey hair.
They'll be like feathers. It says it'll be
Right,
like feathers.
feathers, exactly. Vitzipornav,
Claws.
By the way, it's interesting. Until I read that, I didn't pick up. What's a Hebrew word for nail?
Tzipornayim.
Right, tzipor from the word tzipor. He's like a little talents of birds. Okay, so what we're going to do next week is we're going to try then and understand what happens in this perek. Okay. And what is the meaning of this punishment that Nebuchadnezzar, and how do we understand what happens to him? And then we will then see how we're going to move on from there. So we've got still a little bit more of unpacking of this very complicated dream and what happens to Nebuchadnezzar. I'm going to leave you with a hint that certainly what the text here is very much depicting is Nebuchadnezzar is really an animal. Like he's not really being depicted as a human being. So what happens to him in that transformation? One of the things about Sefer Daniel for me, which has been very interesting, is because I said this before, that Nebuchadnezzar to me is like he's a king who
Destroyed the Beis Hamikdash.
right, destroyed the Beit HaMikdash as a terror. But here in Sefer Daniel, we get a little bit of a kind of a flesh of this horrible monster named Nebuchadnezzar, and we see he's not particularly a nice person. But we will come back and we will do that next week, and then I'll show you, Bezrat Hashem, the order how we're going to look at the next generation of Babylonian leaders and how that affects the Sefer. So it is a tough one, but I hope everybody's finding it interesting and challenging.
And stuff that we never knew before.
Yeah, and stuff that we know. Everything is new, so that's certainly something.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michal.
And I'll work on. I have to try and see if I can figure out what went wrong. Apologies for not being able to enter the Zoom. So
Your fault.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Thanks, Michal.
Bye, everybody. Good night.
Bye. Thanks.
Yedida, how you going?
Good. Next, they're going to take your identity, Michal.
Sorry, I know. I couldn't. Somebody was on our Zoom thing.
Oh, Mizrahi.
Yeah, I don't know who. I have to find out. But Rav Johnny said he couldn't get into his either.
Oh well.
But I found another. There was another.
Probably Danny.
Yeah, it probably was.
How are you going?
I'm good. Who's Galaxy A11?
Oh,
Hello.
that'd be Mrs. Erica. She's probably not listening. It's Mrs. Erica. So so I have to find out how we avoid this.
Yeah, it's bad, isn't it?
It's really bad. It was lucky I could find another
Link, yeah.
link. So we had Rav Shechter, Rav Shai Shechter here.
How was he?
He was good. So yeah.
They didn't bring him to try out, did they?
No. He's in the 5 towns. He's got a community.
So why did he come?
I think just to.
I know RSVP brought him out, but why him?
I don't.
Rafi Lamb liked
I think Rafi Lamb liked him.
I heard he had a problem saying Medinat Israel, and he calls it Eretz Israel.
Um.
Where you notice.
No, and Ezra does. Because
Did
Ezra,
he say?
nephew Ezra keeps a record of all of this stuff.
Yeah. No, Ezra said he mentioned Medin. He didn't say Eretz Israel. He's a bit.
He didn't say
quite-
Medinat Israel.
Israel. Yeah. He's I don't know. Like he was good, and his shurim were very, very nice. But he's not really a Yom Ha'atzmaut speaker. You know what I mean?
That's something
Breaking.
saying, yeah.
So I don't know how these decisions get made. I have no idea.
Danny
Well, I
Lamb.
asked him at dinner once because Zara's VP and she's part of that,
Yeah.
and she said that
Yeah.
they just give the money and they're told who's coming out once the decision's made by Danny.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Danny's coming back with vengeance.
No, Danny never left. He's not Elvis. He never left.
I know he never left, but you don't understand. I know he never left, but he's the version. He's come back even. He's just
He
really
makes all the announcements that David Brickman forgets to make.
Oh, man,
He
he's there in full force.
Oh,
You know.
But he's not even. He doesn't even pretend to be Geppetto.
No.
He is it. You know, he's
Yeah.
not even.
No, he's completely. He's
in
completely
charge.
He's completely in charge. The
Do you reckon he'll
Shurim-
stand again?
Sorry.
Do you
What
reckon
does he
Danny will
need to
stand?
stand? He's president. What they're to stand for?
Apparently they're delaying apparently the AGM got delayed. I don't know if that's
Why?
true.
It's usually in May.
May, yeah,
That's
I don't.
delayed.
So I think nothing's come out yet. So so I don't know.
And who are they bringing out for Shavuot?
I don't.
What's
No,
this?
you don't know.
I don't know?
You
Oh.
don't know yet. I'll tell you. It's going to be confirmed. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Someone from Israel?
Yeah. I
Okay.
just
Male?
got to confirm. What?
The male, of course.
A male, of course.
Oh, don't tell me it's Moshe Tarragon again.
No.
That's not what she said.
No. No, I'll tell you once it just got confirmed now because it was big
Will he
secret.
be good?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not sure.
don't know what
I'll
it's
tell you
like.
tomorrow once it
Okay.
once it's kind of one person.
Yeah,
If
that's
I-
fine.
No, I'll tell you, but don't. It's not to be repeated. Please. You know
I'm
who
gonna
it is?
tell my neighbours.
Yeah, that's right. But just because they're bringing out Moti Goodman's father, the B'nai Shliach's father.
What's his yichus in the world?
He's rabbi doctor. He's an educator.
Okay, well, I hope he's good. Have you ever heard of him?
No, just came. So because then
What's
he
his
had
name? What's
You're
his
no
first name?
gone.
Yonah.
Is it
Yeah.
okay. You're not good.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Right. I
Oh,
went
no.
to Teal yesterday to the Shomron.
Yes.
There's this guy. He was really good, a real Tanakh baki. But I had Esty and Yossi were there, so Esty knows her Tanakh, right?
Yes,
Really knows it. Very interesting. He was very good till he got to Shiloh, and then I just thought he was so weak compared to Shani.
Yeah.
He was really, yeah.
You know
Just a
what?
sec, Michal, just a sec.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, good. Can I ring you back, or what are you doing? You finished? Okay, I'm still in the apartment. I'll ring you back. Bye.
Okay,
Michael had an appointment. He had a meeting at Hatzola headquarters. So.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So he just, I don't know. He just basically just walked through and wasn't really interested in anything. No, you don't have to see the film. You don't like. And then, you know, when we were there, Shani had the string and she measured it out, and it was dirt. It was dirt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now they've actually made it like a promenade. They've put planks down and stuff like that. It's lost so much of the feel.
Oh.
I really didn't. I was like, that type
You
of
know
thing.
what? The truth is, after that tiyul that we did with her to Shiloh, no one could ever do. I mean, she was just.
Yeah.
She was
amazing.
She was amazing. I mean, she made the whole thing. I mean, you could see, I was there. I could see Hannah. I could see Shmuel. I could see them all there. She was brilliant.
Yeah. So that whole area is redone. It's like very kitschy now, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't like that at all. So
no, she
but
really
it's fascinating. Yeah, we went to a winery, we went to Elon Moreh, we went to the closest lookout over Kever Yosef, over Shechem, Har Grizim. It was amazing, really amazing. So, but except for Shiloh.
But that's
because I was spoiled with Shani, like you said.
Yeah, but you know what? Even when we went with what's his name? The guy from Sydney, his brother. You know, John T. Blackman. Yeah. Remember, even when we went, John T. was also good.
Where did we go with John T?
We went to Hebron.
Oh, where did we go?
We went to Hebron.
Right. Yeah.
Remember we went. Yeah. Remember he bought the lady who's the whole. She told us the whole story.
Yeah.
Rav Cook's
remember Rav Cook's
Rav Cook's granddaughter.
Yeah. Remember and how the whole thing. Yeah. Right, and remember he took us down under the original area and he took us through the wine press. I also thought he did a very good job as well.
Yeah, he was excellent also. Now this guy was really good.
Good, except to Shiloh. Yeah.
But even Yossi and Esty said that, and they had big sport by Shani.
Yeah.
I don't know, just maybe he was exhausted by that. I don't know.
Well, Shani's not human because she never gets exhausted.
I know.
On and on. Yeah. Remember, everybody's on the bus like her, and she's talking about the topography and the lands. There's some point like.
But even like when we went past where they say now, well, some people say Kever Rachel is.
Yes.
He said, "Oh yeah." Some people say that Kever Rachel's there. Well, hello, where? There's no marker. Tell us how do they come to it? Nothing like that. And I'm just thinking.
Shani did the whole thing. Remember, she did the whole thing. Of, where it, why it makes it's interesting. Yeah. So have you seen? Yeah, and how's it? Yeah. So what? So how was your matzmot? That's what I was going to ask you. And then
amazing.
Yeah.
Do you not see? If I spoken to you since then, maybe not. I went to a Tekes at Nefesh B'Nefesh. I wanted an
You
English
told me
speaking
that. Yes, you
one.
did tell
So I
me.
said that. And the next day, and then we went to davening in Teddy Park.
Okay.
Outside, that was good. And then they had a concert after that. Then we walked up Ben Yehuda and just looked around, the area and stuff like that. Next morning I went to Nitzanim for davening. Amazing. The Hallel there was just special, really special. And amazing.
Yeah.
And then the afternoon, Yom HaZikaron, in the afternoon, I went on tour with Lowry to in Har HaZeitim, all the Ateret Konim housing there and stuff like that, and the Muslim Quarter and all that. So that was very interesting also.
Have you seen Bubba yet?
Yes, saw Bubba on Friday. Thanks regards.
Good.
Didn't get a chance to see my auntie, so I just rung Alan's nephew and said, "Look, I know it's a coming up in here. I don't know exactly when, but I'd like to go to her to visit her then. So I'll go back to Har HaZeitim, and Har HaMenachot I can do by myself as long as I've got the shura and everything puts out. So
okay, so Bubba was happy to see you, I'm sure.
Bubba was happy. Yes, we actually think she's moved a bit. I know it's not possible, but we think she's moved.
She wasn't, I'll tell you why she moved. I'll explain to you why she didn't like the show. So funny. When we were buried, this is so cute. There's this guy who was in charge of the Chevra Kaddish of Yerushalayim. His name was Mr. Goldstein. He was a Chabad. He's one of the, like an old Chabad family. Very, very, very special man. So, when we buried his mother and we had to put the matzeva, he asked, and this is before emails and so he says to me, so I'm talking to him in Hebrew, what type of matzeva do you want? So I said to him, Ma'ata mamlitz, what do you recommend, right? So he says, it's so funny, he says, At rotzah kmo kol hashchenim. Do you want the same as the rest of the neighbors? So from then on, we always call it the shchuna, like Sinai, the neighborhood. So, so she's got the same matzeva as the other neighbors. So she probably didn't like him. That's it. It's a neighborhood there. It's cute.
Yes. No, it's I don't know, maybe, who knows? I mean, I'm sure she hasn't moved, but yeah.
No, she doesn't like the neighbors. So. Yeah. So is it warming up a bit or it's still cool?
Yeah, it was very cold on with Shabbos. What's going on? Why is this? Shabbos is very cold. And I didn't bring so much. I mean, basically my wardrobe, I was thinking so much of Dubai, how boiling hot it is, and how going to be with all these, American yuppies that you have to have a different dress for every meal and shit like that. So that's what my wardrobe is.
I don't think I have that amount of clothes.
And but I bought. I only bought one zip up hoodie, so I bought that when it's been cold, and I bought something for Shabbat.
Yeah.
But thank God it's warming up, so it's good.
Yeah. Israel actually has nice clothes now.
Yeah, it's not bad.
They have some nice clothes, that. Okay. Yeah, the apartment looks nice. I mean, I can see the picture in the background behind you.
It's very nice. Very nice apartment. There's a kitchen. Yeah. There's another. Can you see there's there's a spare room, TV room, or third. It's really nice.
Lovely. It's beautiful.
Bathrooms, good kitchen. Here's a salon.
Yeah. It looks lovely.
Yeah. And I'm on the dining room table.
Yeah.
And can you see outside?
Yeah, I can see. It's beautiful. It's very nice. It's lovely.
It's very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said to Ronnie, came over last night the first time, and I said to her, well, it's a nice apartment. She said, didn't have an issue with the apartment. I just don't like the location. I said to her, okay, this is not the one I'm going to buy anyway. Don't laugh. I've actually gone with some real estate agents.
Yeah.
So bloody expensive. You're so lucky you bought when you did.
Yeah.
Just don't think about
Yeah, I know.
We've still got enough lot.
Yeah, we bought because we bought it in the middle of the Intifada.
How many bedrooms in Nachlot?
Nachlot 2 bedrooms. But at the time when we bought it, we were only 2.
Yeah.
But we bought it in 2003, didn't we?
Yeah.
So
We
Prices
also
have
heard
gone up.
you heard
Yeah.
Dennis
Prices have
Kuchar
absolutely
die.
gone mad here.
yeah,
Mad.
You heard
Yeah.
Dennis Kuchar die.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
Menachem didn't get there because he got stopped at getting on the plane because he's a
Did he?
huge anti-vaxxer. Yes, he did.
Oh,
How can you not
that's
go to someone, anti-vaxxer? You're going to someone who was so sick, you wouldn't think that you should be vaxxed.
idiot.
Anyway, he didn't get to see him.
Mm.
And he writes in his Facebook page, because I was stopped by you know who.
Oh,
People are
great.
mad.
Oh,
Absolutely
great.
mad.
Oh, bang. Oh, bang. Yeah. Oh, bang.
Another nut.
Okay. But
Yeah, absolutely
so no prices are. I mean prices are very. Tel Aviv's one of the most expensive cities in the world. You know that for real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So prices. No, I know the prices are expensive. Yeah, we
It's
bought in the.
crazy.
Yeah, we bought in the middle of the Intifada,
Yeah.
which was really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what happened? We were in a taxi. It was the middle of the Intifada. We were in a taxi. We get out of the taxi, and the taxi driver thanks us for coming. So I get out and I said, "Alex, do you realize no taxi driver in the history of Israel ever thanks you for anything?" So it's that he thanked us for being. I said, "That's it. We're buying a dira."
Yeah.
Yes.
And Alex went and had to buy a dira.
There you go, Alex.
That was his holiday. He bought a dira.
Have you seen Arla?
Who?
Your stepna, Arla.
Have you seen
No.
our?
No,
Okay.
not yet.
Yeah. Okay. So listen, enjoy. Okay.
How long are you still there for?
This is till Shavuot.
Another few more weeks.
After Shavuot.
After Shavuot.
27. We're leaving 27th of June.
Oh, wow. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're home just in time for school holidays.
And for the 3 weeks.
Okay,
No looking fast for me, Nate.
you did that.
Enjoy.
Rock shop. I'm actually going to spend it 5 days or something in Tel Aviv this time. I don't know what I'm going to do in Tel Aviv, but anyway.
There's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do.
I know.
It's not like
I've got the Gosling wedding. So the Hussars leaving from Tel Aviv. So I said to Mike, let's stay there. We never spend time in Tel Aviv. Apparently the Beit HaKvutzot now is amazing.
Yeah.
They've redone it.
Yeah.
So
And also, with the Declaration of Independence, that whole, the whole,
Ben-Gurion, all that.
Have you been to Chaim Nachman Bialik's house?
No.
It's also worthwhile going. There's so much, and also it's got a lot more access to kosher food than ever before.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
when we were traveling years ago, we never went to Tel Aviv, never. But now,
It's much easier.
and also they've regentrified all the early areas of Neve Tzedek. That it's beautiful down there. Okay. So there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot to see. It's really.
It's good.
Pretty,
The thing is that they're making Shabbos. The Goslings are making Shabbos Sheva Brachos, and that Motzei Shabbos is Yom Yerushalayim.
okay.
Yeah, and be caught. I don't know what to do. I'll see.
No, come back to your line. Come back.
Yeah, but I can't get back in time for Tefillah.
God. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'll be there for Sunday morning Tefillah, but I'll see.
Okay.
As Bubba Honig would say, and everyone else, you can't dance in zwei chasnas. So.
No, but you can move over if you like the neighbours.
Yeah, definitely, exactly. So one of her neighbours is the brother, so
okay.
Can't say that. Okay, see ya.
See you.
Speak to
Bye.
you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon.